The Home Secretary is back with another rock-solid government promise that'll surely work out brilliantly. They're determined to end asylum hotels by the end of Parliament, despite their own chief inspector stating, and I quote, "Frankly, I do not think it will be achieved." But hey, who needs housing stock when you've got determination, right? Meanwhile, organised crime gangs are reportedly operating with alacrity in every British village, town, and city, masquerading as barbers and sweet vendors, while one community officer covers 120 square miles. But don't worry, citizens, raids are up by 50%, and they're really focused on town centres this time. Because nothing says we've got this under control like admitting your predecessor left decision-making in chaos while criminal networks quietly established themselves nationwide. Another day, another government masterclass in managing the impossible.
Lord Henley.
Home Secretary, thank you very much. The government's made it clear that they want to end the use of asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament, and that's a very specific time, rather than one that can be subject to seasonal interpretation. As you know, we recently saw David Bolt, the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration, and he expressed some doubts as to whether the department would be able to achieve that. He said, for example, "Frankly, I do not think it will be achieved. There is simply not sufficient housing stock to be able to deal with the sorts of numbers that there are in the system." Are you confident that it can be achieved, and how will you go about achieving it?
So we're determined to do this. The asylum hotels, I think, are completely inappropriate, incredibly expensive, but they also reflect the fact that the backlog in the system is just far too high. We should not have this many people in supported asylum accommodation or in the asylum system for so long in the first place. So there's a series of things that we are doing. The most important thing is to clear the backlog. The situation we inherited last July, it was chaotic because as a result of the Illegal Migration Act, the previous government had effectively halted asylum appointments and decision making. So we had that final 3 months in the run-up to the general election, just plummeting numbers of asylum decisions and appointments being made, sort of 70 to 80% reduction in the decision making. That meant we inherited a rising backlog, and we've had to deal with that, and that has we've had to substantially increase the initial decision making. We now, in the last quarter, was the second highest 3-month period for decision making since 2002, and was more than double the rate of initial decision making that we had in those 3 months before the election. So that is the first stage, to just hugely speed up the initial decision making, just take a lot more decisions to start clearing that backlog. Secondly, we will need to reform the appeals system. The Border Security Bill going through Parliament at the moment does include the new statutory timetable, 24-week timetable around supported appeals. And the Ministry of Justice is expanding capacity in the asylum appeals system. We are looking at ways to go further on that, because it's the appeals backlog that is now increasing because that system was just not fit for purpose. The next area we're looking at is tighter management of contracts. You'll be aware we have removed Stay Belvedere from the asylum contract supply chain, and also looking at working with local authorities on more appropriate accommodation as well, working with local authorities on different ways to be able to do that. But the fundamental thing is we've got to get the overall numbers in the system down. And then a final thing that we are looking at as well is stronger checks on asylum applications in the first place. So in fact, there's been a big increase in applications from people who arrived on a visa, including on a student visa, even where there have been no changes in their circumstances since they arrived, no changes in the circumstances in their home country since they arrived. In those circumstances, we are looking at how we prevent some of that misuse of the system, and also how we make sure that there are really robust checks done on whether or not people actually need asylum accommodation. If they have been here working or studying, they should have funding to support themselves and shouldn't be going into asylum accommodation.
As of the 31st of March, and the figures I have, there were something a little over 50,000 open asylum cases. When will you have the next set of figures, and are they coming down?
So the numbers are coming down. The numbers in the waiting for initial decisions are coming down. The challenge at the moment is around making sure that we also can have the same progress around appeals, and that's why we're introducing these appeal reforms as well. But yes, the numbers in the overall system waiting for initial decisions are significantly coming down.
We publish statistics quarterly.
So the June figures will be coming out
in August, I think. So we published at the end of May, and the next one is in.
Thank you very much.
Baroness Buscombe.
Thank you. Home Secretary, I want to highlight the issue of organised crime, much of which we now know is intrinsically linked to the illegal boats and supported by a really powerful and dangerous network of criminal gangs who are here and now established in every part of the UK, in our villages, our towns and our cities. It's something that goes unspoken, but it's here and very much alive. The gangs comprise, we don't know how many asylum seekers who've leaked out of the hotels, calling themselves barbers, cigarette and sweet vendors, etc. And they're operating illegally with alacrity. We're all watching it daily, as the risk to them is so negligible and the rewards are so great. The Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration has told us that, and I quote, "In respect of organised crime, the best we can do is deflect it to something else that you are less concerned about, rather than eradicate it." Home Secretary, do you agree?
So I just don't accept that we should accept the presence of organised crime in our communities. I think that what you see is organised crime expands if they are given free rein to do so and if it is too easy for them to do so. And I think you're right to say that we've had organised immigration crime, I think has been let off the hook for far too long. We've seen that in terms of the way in which the gangs have been operating across Europe, and they have exploited lack of coordination between governments across Europe. But we've also seen organised crime take advantage, I think, of lax enforcement around the high street as well. We've seen that because there really hasn't been a strong enough response on illegal working, hasn't been, I think, strong enough policing, neighbourhood policing in our town centres. I think town centres have been too easy territory for organised crime to operate, whether that be around the organised shop theft or whether it be around organised taking over different high street locations as well. So the first thing that we did straight after the general election was substantially increase the resources for immigration enforcement. So an additional 1,000 people working in different areas of immigration enforcement. That has led to, we've managed to run a 50% increase in raids and arrests for illegal working. And I think it's between a 20 and 30% increase in penalties now going through the system for both employers and illegal workers as well. We need to keep going, and we are setting out and working through different ways to increase the targeting. We're just drawing up a new focus around particularly the gig economy operations, where there's a new measure as part of the Borders Bill, which is about closing the loophole on the gig economy, and meaning that employers need to do employment checks there. And then also, I think the increasing neighbourhood policing, I think, is part of this as well, because we've got the 3,000 additional neighbourhood police that we're putting into place the course of this year. We've said that the focus for police forces this year needs to be town centres. If you've got police forces and neighbourhood police in town centres, then that's when they will get the intelligence about what is going wrong in particular locations as well.
The thing is, I mean, my local police community support officer, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's covering an area of 120 square miles. How can she do this? And we know that these people in organised crime, they go to quiet areas and no one dare say anything. The Equality Act, I think, needs to be looked at because people are terrified of saying anything. Otherwise, they're accused of being racist or whatever. The other issue, Home Secretary, have you looked at landlords and their role in terms of allowing people to rent who are have criminal intent or there's any suspect of crime? Because that used to be strict liability if one actually was renting to somebody, for example, to do with illegal drugs. Strict liability. None of that is happening at the moment as far as the public can see and feel.
What I would say is crime is crime. Wherever it is taking place, whoever is undertaking the crime, and in terms of policing needs to go after the crime without fear or favour. And we also have the way in which the e-visa system works is that landlords are supposed to do checks on people's right to be in the UK in the same way that employers do and can as well. You'll be aware that we're bringing in a sort of tighter regime around landlords more widely separately as part of the work the MCHLG is doing. But our particular enforcement focus right now is around the illegal working.